Apple made a very interesting purchase. Let's talk about it. If you haven't heard, Apple decided to purchase a classical music streaming service called Primephonic. There's also a competitor out there called Adagio, but we'll get to that in a second. Apple Music bought Primephonic. Didn't say for how much, according to the Verge article that's down in the description below. Yeah, I have some thoughts about it. Let's dive right in. But before we dive right in, my name is Eric. I'm a violinist. I do a lot of classical music content, violin videos, and etc. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that way you get notified for when new videos come out. Helps me as a content creator to provide more videos for you since this video is not sponsored. So for those of you who are into tech and into tech news, let me give you a rundown of what Primephonic is or was. Primephonic was a classical music streaming service that was created 3 years ago in Europe. And what Primephonic did really well that the other streaming services like Spotify, Apple Music, and other streaming services, they didn't do classical music well, because classical music is not just an artist and the name of a song, right? There's a lot more than that. There's a lot of metadata that goes into classical music, such as the composer, such as the conductor, such as the orchestra, such pieces that the orchestras are playing, all of that stuff that Apple Music, Spotify, all the streaming giants really couldn't do well. And Apple knew that they couldn't do that well, so they found an opportunity to buy Primephonic, and so they did. And you know, in this game, cash is king, and Apple has a ton of cash that they're sitting on. So I think this is a very good decision for Apple. I think from a business perspective, obviously this is the most correct decision that Apple can make right now, because they just introduced Dolby into their earbuds, and they're having a lot of success with that. And my 2 cents is that they're gonna try to expand on that technology into the classical music streaming world, which I'm excited about as a consumer. It's gonna be really, really great to have that spatial audio experience in my earbuds, because that's something that was really lacking in classical music streaming services, is to have that technology where I honestly felt like I was sitting in the concert hall. That's a very unique experience. You know, if you're a concert goer, or if you're not a classical music goer, I encourage you to go, by the way, support your classical music orchestras in your city or in your hometown. They're struggling right now. They need someone like you to really support them by attending a concert. So there's my little plug on that. So again, from a business standpoint, this makes a whole lot of sense for Apple to acquire Primephonic. However, there's also another streaming service called Adagio, and I'm curious, was Adagio ever in the conversation? Adagio also has the same goals as Primephonic. Maybe they wanted to not be a part of the Apple Music ecosystem, and they wanted to be their own thing. But Primephonic, in their statement on primephonic.com, it's public, I'll also leave a link down below, that they announced that to gain a wider audience, to get a bigger audience, the most obvious decision for them is to be a part of Apple Music, which again makes sense. They wanted classical music to be in the masses. So Apple Music swooped them up, kind of like Apple Music or Apple as a company swooped up Beats by Dre. Same kind of situation. Will Primephonic still be its own app? No, it is not. According to Apple, they are going to have an Apple Music classical app specifically for classical music, which I'll be very interested to try out and give my honest opinion and feedback once that app is released. Will it be the same pay structure as Apple Music? Will it be different? Well, who knows? We have no idea about that. But for people who are now enrolled in Primephonic, they're given a certain expiration date, and they're also going to be given 6 free months of Apple Music courtesy of Apple, for, you know, gratis, for free. So that's kind of nice that Apple Music is able to take care of the Primephonic customers. However, there are no new Primephonic customers as of today. You cannot go on primephonic.com to become a new member. Just can't do it anymore, at least for the time being. Now, that's from the consumer side. That's from the consumer side, me wanting to purchase an experience with the Dolby audio experience and all that. I get it, that's fine. But what about the artist perspective? What about the people who are putting music on Primephonic and on these classical music streaming platforms? What's gonna happen with their pay? The reason why Primephonic was so beloved by the classical music community is that they paid their artists fairly. You're starting to hear Apple Music and Spotify streams costing less and less and less as time goes on. To me, I feel like there's a slippery slope. Even though Apple is acquiring Primephonic for the benefit of the consumer and the benefit of their company to, let's face it, increase subscribe numbers and increase revenue from subscriptions and money and all that good stuff, will that mean the same for classical music artists such as myself? Do I trust Apple to have the same pay structure as Primephonic did or Adagio? That is not in the Verge article, and if you have more details about that, or Apple, if there's an executive watching this video, please email me, because I'd love to have a conversation with you how this is going to benefit musicians. The pay structure is getting less and less and less for classical musicians. You know, we're struggling right now with orchestras and concert halls not being open. What are you gonna do to help the artists? That's a big question for Apple. So let me know in the comments section. Do you think that this is a good purchase by Apple? I'm curious to know your thoughts. And if you like this video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification, so that way you get notified for when these types of videos come out. Also helps me out as a content creator to provide more videos for you. Also, make sure to check out other videos that I have on the channel, violin related, classical music news related. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next one.